Good morning once again, and thank you for watching Sunrise at Sea. If you just joined us, you are right in time for the Twitter jabs. And the topic of discussion today is Uganda's laws on adultery. And in studio, I have a very special person, Counsel Daniel Angualia. He is a family lawyer and is very well versed in civil litigation, commercial litigation, and corporate law. He has been with us on the show before on Our Views, but then we were discussing divorce. But today we are discussing Uganda's laws on adultery. Good morning, Counsel. Thank you for coming in.
Good morning to you, and thank you for inviting me.
Well, let's talk about this hot topic. It's quite a hot topic on Twitter. What happened recently, some people were found having relations. One was married. The police stormed into the room. It was all, there was coverage and everything, and social media was awash. But before we head on down onto it and people's reactions on Twitter, what is adultery?
Adultery can be defined as simply, in simple terms, a voluntary sexual relationship between a married man or a married woman and that other person other than his or spouse. In other words, there has to be someone who's already married having a voluntary sexual relationship with another person other than his or her spouse. So by the time, before you accuse someone of adultery, the person must be married.
Yes.
The person, one of the parties involved in the voluntary sexual intercourse must be married.
Okay, so now the police spokesperson, Mr. Enanga, went on to say in the press release that adultery is not a criminal offense in Uganda anymore. And people were like, what do you mean? What is the difference between a criminal offense and a civil offense? Because adultery is a civil offense.
It is true, it's no longer a crime. It used to be up to around 2007 when the Constitutional Court outlawed adultery as a criminal offense. It ceased to be a criminal offense from then. I'm aware there are instances where police has been involved. Even this which has made news would not have made news if at all the media had not been involved or if people had not recorded. I'm told someone recorded the video.
Yes.
Yeah, so it has been ongoing. And sometimes you don't blame police because when someone reports a case, police has what we call the family protection unit.
Yes.
Now, police usually intervenes from that angle because we are aware of the rampant cases of domestic violence. You find your wife or your husband with someone, you are bound to pick a knife or a panga or anything.
Crimes of passion.
Yes, crimes of passion. So where someone takes the steps to come to report to you as a police, I think it's a good thing. We are aware, yes, it's not a crime, but police can still intervene from that angle as from the family protection unit for perspective.
But do you think okay, fine, this was scrapped in 2007?
Yes.
Yes, it was scrapped because it favored men. Women were actually, they had to pay, plus a woman, correct me if I'm wrong, but the woman had to also, she could not only cite adultery for grounds on divorce, she also had to cite cruelty and desertion.
Now, let us not confuse the adultery from the criminal perspective and adultery from the civil perspective.
Yes.
Now, just a background. Before, for a case of adultery, if a man was the one involved, he would be required to pay a fine of either from 200 to 1,200.
200, yes.
Or imprisonment for 12 months. On the other hand, if it was the case involving the woman, should in the first instance be convicted or sentenced to a caution. Magistrate would say, don't do it again, what you did was wrong, that's all. And in the second instance, it was 6 months imprisonment. There was no option for a fine. So you can imagine the inconsistencies. All is adultery.
Yes.
Ideally, people should face the same punishment.
Yes, they should.
So that was the unfair bit. As a result, it was challenged. A group of NGOs involved in women's rights, I think it's called Advocacy for Women's Rights in Uganda, stood the Attorney General challenging that. Now, that's the criminal perspective. It was outlawed. Now, when you bring in the aspect of divorce, initially, a woman to succeed in a petition for divorce, you had to allude more than one ground. If adultery, you should also add on cruelty, separation, among others. On the other hand, a man could just rely on adultery.
Adultery, exactly.
That's why it was challenged.
Yes.
But from the civil perspective, it remains. You can both only apply for divorce based on the ground of adultery only.
Only.
Yeah, it was made fair. It applies to both parties equally.
So let's talk about this particular case of these people where the media stormed into the place and the police and everything. Wasn't their privacy breached? Their privacy was breached. Can't they even sue the police for this? Because everybody has a right to privacy.
Yes, the Constitution provides for that right, and if they feel aggrieved, they can decide to sue the concerned officers. Yes, if they feel aggrieved.
Also, they were humiliated because everybody has a right, according to Article 4 of the Constitution, to preservation of human dignity. They were humiliated. That was actually the whole point, to humiliate them. So can't they sue? Can't they sue the officers in question for this?
They can if they are aggrieved. Because you must feel aggrieved to sue. We could be talking about this when they are not, you know.
Do you think the laws like these laws, because that law was scrapped because of the whole inconsistencies in the law, but judging from like how it was enacted and everything, do you think our laws perpetuate a patriarchal society?
I wouldn't say, in my view, because you would say that if the law on divorce was still as before, where a man would only rely on adultery. On the other hand, a woman would have to bring in adultery and other grounds. But now it has been made uniform. So I think it is neutral and favors everybody, in my opinion.
So now what happens? Because people are asking, one of the reactions we had, and this man asked, so as a man, if you find your wife committing adultery,
yes,
what do we do? We can't take them to police. How do they go about it? What is this punishment, if any?
Shouldn't be as a man only, because even a woman can find a husband involved in voluntary sexual intercourse. Yes, there are options. If you feel aggrieved as a man or woman, your spouse has been involved in sexual intercourse with another person, you can sue for compensation. In family law, there's what we call right to consortium. Consortium includes the love, affection, comfort, exclusive sexual rights to your spouse. So where a third party intermeddles or interferes with their family affairs, yes, then such a person has denied you that right. So you, the aggrieved spouse, can sue for compensation for that. Though I've never come across that where someone sues because the wife is, a civil case, because the wife or the husband has been involved in adultery. I've not heard of that. However, other than that, because that is an option which is available, other than that, if you have decided not to forgive because the person has committed the act of adultery, then you can file for divorce.
For divorce?
Yes, you can file for divorce on the ground of adultery or separation. You know, divorce and separation is different.
Yes.
With divorce, you are seeking court to permanently bring an end to the marital relationship between you and that other person. On the other hand, separation, you may just ask for a court order, court intervention to separate you for a given period of time. You can say for initially 2 years to enable you assess the situation. Okay, because you never know, maybe you're acting out of anger.
Reconciliation.
Yeah, you're acting out of anger. And 2 years down the road, you may forgive, you may reconcile. Those are the options available. But also there's a challenge with that issue of adultery. It's usually not easy to prove.
Yes.
It was largely redundant, even in our criminal law books, because we're talking about voluntary sexual intercourse. Now, this is something involving two adults who know they're doing something wrong. So in most cases, they'll do it in privacy. You're not going to find people in a football field committing adultery in the eyes of everyone. You know? So Even when you go to court for divorce on ground of adultery, the standard is usually slightly high. They must prove that here there was sexual intercourse. There are instances where you are faced with all the other information that really leads to existence of a sexual relationship between these two people. But that is it. It is not enough. They must go beyond. So when it comes to petition for divorce, in some cases you find there's a child already involved. Yeah, I find the child has been conceived out of the marital relationship, or the person you're accusing of adultery admits. Yes. Sometimes they even write apology letters, out of that. You are seeking forgiveness from your spouse. I'm sorry, I was misled by the devil. Usually the devil is blamed in this. I committed adultery, forgive me. Yeah, that can be a piece of evidence. But ordinary situation, someone said, no, I did not. They have an appeal task to prove. Besides, it has to be voluntary. Someone can say I was raped. He dragged me. She dragged me. She put something in my drink.
I was seduced.
I didn't know what was. Seduction is different. Yeah, because seduction is gradual. You can pull out of it. You can sense someone seducing me. But there's a situation where you're with someone, you're having a drink, you excuse yourself to go for a short call, and it drops some tablets in it. You get sedated. That would be rape. Or you may be in between. Okay? But the point is, was it voluntary? So you have a high standard of proof if you're relying on adultery as a ground for divorce, or even the criminal perspective before it was scrapped off. In other words, it was redundant ground. Yeah.
I would like, as we wrap up, Counsel, I would like us to talk about the 1,200 shillings that the man caught cheating is supposed to pay to the husband of the woman he's cheating with. Now, men have had mixed reactions on this because they're saying, I paid dowry for this woman and I find her cheating on me and they are giving me 1,200. How does that happen?
Now, that was the position before 2007. It is
so
no
now
longer,
it's no longer there.
And when they talk about payment of a fine, that does not necessarily mean that the fine you're paying should go to the person complaining. That's why we have to distinguish criminal from civil. When we're talking about criminal, there's the government involvement to punish the perpetrators. You, the husband or the wife to the person you're accusing of adultery, you only help the state. You help the government to provide evidence that, yes, I'm married to him or her, okay? This is the evidence. She committed adultery or he committed adultery. Now it is the government, through its machineries, the court system, the police, that comes in to punish. And such punishment can be in the form of a fine or imprisonment. So usually when they talk of fine, this fine is usually payable to government. Yes.
Because it's a crime against the state.
It's a crime against the state. The money goes into the consolidated fund and is used to provide services. Though in some cases, the magistrate would use their powers and maybe order the accused to maybe compensate. But if it is not part of the prescribed punishments, when the law says in the event that you are found guilty, it is a fine of either 200 to 1,200 shillings or imprisonment for 12 months. So if the magistrate comes in and said also give a compensation of 100,000, whatever amount, that one may be difficult to enforce.
So what would you advise people out there? How can they go around dealing with adultery?
One, we have to recognize that, yes, it is no longer a criminal offense. Okay? Now, on asking how to deal with adultery, it is not a legal question.
It's not. Yes, it's not a legal question. But you know how people, like we said, crimes of passion, because things can escalate real fast, and the situation can become very volatile. So
That's
what
true.
would you advise them from a perspective of the law? Because what happens next is people go ahead and break the law because of their state of mind.
I think this would mainly go to police. It is true, it is not a crime, okay, per se, or from the face of it in the law books. But there are other criminal elements that can be attributed to such.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so police should not just rush to say, go away. He has committed adultery. It's no longer a crime. They should go further. Because other than adultery, there may be other criminal offenses. You may consider criminal trespass. Yeah,
Domestic violence.
There could be aspect of criminal trespass, an aspect of elopement. There's really something within the criminal law books cover very many aspects.
Yes.
So if you tell people don't come to report cases of adultery, they will not know that it is not just adultery committed here. There's something more. So I think police should still be involved one or the other as the state decides whether to come up with a criminal aspect relating to adultery. There should be still some involvement by police, because if you just ignore people, then you are going to lead to increase in cases of mob justice.
Yes. And crimes of passion.
Yes. I know, well, if I go to police, they'll not do anything. At least those days we used to go. The time you take moving from your home to police gives you a chance to cool off.
Yes.
By the time you reach there, you have changed your perspective. And by the time someone has gone to report, is a law-abiding citizen and believes in the state machinery to provide justice. If police just tells you, please, adultery is no longer a crime, don't come. I think that was wrong. Rather say, adultery itself is no longer a crime. However, in the process of commission of adultery, the sexual act, there may be other related criminal offenses that may arise. You could talk of, as I said, criminal trespass, it's still there. You could talk of
elopement, like you said.
Elopement. So police should still be able to give an ear and try to find a way of helping these people. Because the crime of passion, we are going to see them rising. Yes? Because the person who was supposed to come to you to explain his situation has been shut. Yeah, they've closed the door for him. So we'll pick a panga or whatever instrument is next to him, and we hit these people. And you can't even be so sure actually if they actually committed the crime. You know, the crime of passion, it may not necessarily arise because people have been involved in sexual intercourse. That's adultery itself. But just cheating, you find your girlfriend or wife, and you suspect that the way they are seated, something is going on. Yes. Yes. So speculation. It's something that the state should not just ignore and give some kind of clarification. But to the public, I would still say, you don't take the law into your hands, because in the end, even if you found your wife with another, or your husband with someone else, and you commit a crime, the law will not forgive you. You will still face the music.
Thank you so much, Counsel. Thank you so much for those words of wisdom. I hope you are listening out there. This was Counsel Daniel Angualia, and he's a family lawyer. And he says, do not take the law into your own hands when it comes to adultery, because things can escalate very, very quickly. Well, that is all we had for you today. We were talking about Uganda's law on adultery. That was all we had on the Twitter Jabs today, but don't go anywhere, because we'll be right back. Stay at sea.